What up, what up, what up? It's your boy J Dub, and welcome to Kicking It with the JW Effect. Here we talk about all things life. Today we have a great show, but before we get started, join me in a prayer. Father, today I surrender my mind, my will, and my emotions to you. I choose to live in the goodness and the faithfulness so that the good seeds you plant in my life will take root. Keep me close to you and direct my steps and the path you have prepared for me. To you all the glory and praise. Amen. All right, everybody. We give a shout out to my sponsor, the Bowling Group. If you live in the DC area and you're looking for a startup home, you and your significant other just want to purchase, or you just trying to find some great commercial property, the Anthony Bowling Group is your realtor. Located at 1441 McCormick Drive, Suite 1020, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Holler at my boy and tell him J-Dub sent you. That's the Anthony Bowling Group. All right, again, okay, welcome again, everybody. Today, I have a powerful topic, and it's the taste of Yoruba, part 1. My special guest to help talk about her Yoruba, growing up Yoruba experience is Kamba Mchawi. Sister Kamba is a Virginia State alumni. Sister Kamba is an educator and the author of the book, Growing Up Yoruba. Sister Kamba was initiated to the Yoruba Lukumi tradition in 1990. Everybody,
wow.
A big round of applause, and let's welcome my friend, Kamba, to the show. What's up, girl?
Thank you. Great little great little introduction. I was like, okay, what shall I add? What shall I add to my introduction?
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate you, Big Brother Ward,
and
all my sisters here, BSU sisters, for having me on your show. It's awesome.
Right, I appreciate you answering the call, because you know we've talked a lot, and you know this is passionate to me too. Just give a brief. It's in South Carolina, in Shelton County, Beaufort. There's an African village that's been there since 1970, and it's called Oyotunji African Village. During my many travels and the journeys through my life, I lived in that village back in 93, 94 for 12 months. So I'm familiar with the Yoruba culture. I wasn't mentally prepared and culturally ready for that awakening, but I did spend 12 months there. 12 months there, and I do understand. So when I saw Kamba was doing her thing, she wrote her book. We've talked on, and I was like, yo, it's time to showcase her so we can give them a taste of African culture and a little bit of history. So here we are. So I put together some questions for you, sister.
Yes.
And then we just take it from there, and you just rock with it. You ready?
I'm getting ready. I think I'm ready. I'm present, so I'm ready.
Ashe. First thing
Ashe, huh? I love it.
First thing I want to say to you is Alafia.
Alafia ni, brother.
Keep going. Okay, Kamba. What I want you to do is, along with your bio, tell us a little bit about yourself, and go with that.
Just a little bit about myself. So my name is again Kamba Mchawi. I was not born Kamba Mchawi, so that's a whole nother story. But at 3 years old, our parents changed our name from what they called our slave names to more African names. So I may have shared in my book what my birth name is, but I try not to say it because then people be like, oh, hey, girl. People know, when they know, they know. But anyway, they changed our names because they wanted us to embrace our African culture, and let's call it. We're part of an organization, I'll talk about it in a minute, that basically was very African centered, very Pan-African centered, I should say. So it's really embracing the whole Africa in its totality. So anyway, name was changed. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was born in the Bronx, but I grew up in Brooklyn, so I consider myself a Brooklyn girl. And mostly went to a private school, and African private school up until 8th grade, and then into high school. I went to public school. Um, and then I went to Virginia State. Love Virginia State. I'm a proud Virginia State person, no matter what. That's my heart, Virginia State, for sure, right? And after I left Virginia State and came back home, after I graduated and came back home, I got initiated in the tradition that I grew up in, which is the Yoruba Lukumi tradition. So that was, like you mentioned, back in 1990. So it's been 30 years.
Wow.
To date myself, but it's been 30 years. Yeah, so it's been 30 years, and it's been a great experience. It's been it's too golden when you think of it, because I grew up in the tradition, but then when you become initiated, you have to go through a whole process, right? It's a whole year-long experience and process. So that's been 30 years, but my, I guess, involvement has been pretty much all my life almost. I think my mother got involved when I was seven. So what else can I say? I'm a mother. I have 3 wonderful daughters, 2 whom are graduating from college in a couple of weeks. And the oldest graduated, she just got her master's back in June or whatever. So my little 3 girls are rolling right along. I'm an educator. I have spent pretty much, I guess, all of my career in education. I had one little stint and run in development, like a development associate, but it's been in education as a teacher mostly. Then I did 10 years as a, let's call it engagement specialist. That's in the counseling department. That was in Atlanta. But it's really just been everything has been centered around education, no matter what I do. It's education driven. So, and on that road, I got a couple of degrees. I ain't get the big one yet, but we're working on it. It's gonna come. But I got a master's and a specialist, and hey. And then I said, I ain't doing no more, but I changed my mind. I am going to do some more because I didn't want to. What else? My mother is Oseye Mchawi. She has 44 years initiated into our tradition. So all of us in our family are part of it because of her. So she was, we say the needle that sews the thread. She is that needle that pulled everybody along in this process and into this path. So from my mother's initiation, my sister got initiated, both of my sisters, me, my daughters, my nieces, my grandparents. So her parents got into it. And we're talking about people who were raised in the church, but they too got in it. Now, we're not going to say all ways are given up, because they're not. My grandmother would sing Yoruba songs. I swear she was singing the gospel. I mean, like, why you got to sing it like that? But, you can't, who we are. So that's me. That's a little bit about me. What you got for me?
All right.
Hey, Pam, I see some Pam. How y'all?
Huh?
I was saying hi to some family, but I'm going to be.
Okay, here we go. Tell us, how was it growing up? Okay, because you told me that your parents were Black nationalists and your mother and father. So I know growing up in your neighborhood, the families that was also Black nationalists or that flow like that. Tell us how was it growing up, for you with that on you, the way your parents raised you, and when you went off, when you went to school and you was dealing with kids who wasn't part of that type of environment. So, share a little bit about and how you and your siblings and y'all dealt with that, that right there.
Right. So let me just say, I was very fortunate because I went away to college with my 2 cousins. So look at her smiling. So my cousin Yolanda and my cousin Faja. And we were cousins. We all of us went to a school called Ohuru Sasa Shule from when we were very little. It means Freedom Now School, and it was an African independent school, which embraced and focused on our African heritage, our African culture, our African history, everything. It was encapsulated in that. Just that's why our names were changed. The way in which we had to dress. We had school on Thanksgiving, Christmas. You know, we had to, and most of us grew up celebrating, practicing Kwanzaa at that particular time. So it was different. My parents, yeah, they were definitely nationalists or Pan-Africanists, and you say, because, you know, nationalists, we talk about the understanding of the culture, the understanding of Black people and our experiences here in the United States, and then the Pan-Africanist is looking at it from very much from a global diaspora perspective and the Africa perspective. So it was good, look, good and challenging. It was good and it had its challenges as well. So good in the sense that it gave us a level of identity, understanding and being able to embrace who we are and embrace being a Black person. You know, we're coming up in America, coming up in the United States, you know. So I did not get like my first perm in my hair until I went to college. And I went to college and I'm like, hey, break free, act the fool, you know, but it allowed us to, it was good. The community, so everything I've always done has been community, let me say community centered, in the sense that we had mamas and babas, right? That's what we call mothers and fathers. They're like our mamas and our babas. So my parents weren't my only parents. Everybody's parents was my Faj's mom was my mom. Empress, Yolanda's mom, Emma, that was my mom. All these, I can name a million, right? So I'm not going to name them all. But it was very communal in that sense. We were very close, very tight knit. So we all still kind of see each other. When we see each other, we're like family in that sense. And our parents, my parents, I would just say that it was twofold, because this is cultural aspect, and then a few later, it became a religious aspect, which had to meet and marry together. So on the cultural aspect, from very early, where they were strong nationalists, we were demonstrating in the streets, we were marching, like I said, we were learning things about Black culture. It was, I want to use the word radical, because it was strong. It was like, oh, we learned some stuff. Like I'm not gonna tell the untold story unless you twist my arm to do it. But we had to learn. We learned some stuff. It was strong. They indoctrinated us hard in trying to understand who we are in this country, where we stand, how we got here. You know, it was not perfect. Whew, Lord knows it was not perfect, but it was beautiful in the sense that you feel something inside all the time and you can't really separate it. You really can't turn your back on, you can't turn your back on your people. You just can't turn your back. So that's what they taught us in that sense. Don't turn your back. Because we came up, my father, he graduated from NYU, and he grew up in the Bronx and stuff like that. But he could have been on a different kind of trajectory in his life. But he instead, we moved to Bed-Stuy, so we grew up in Brooklyn. We had a brownstone, but around the corner was the projects. So I was, my friends lived everywhere, had friends from the project, friends, it didn't matter. Like we were all connected, so it didn't matter. We didn't try to look at it like a separation or anything like that. So just to say, being a nationalist, I think it was necessary. And you remember, I am, I'm the age of some of the rest of you in here. So I'm a child of the 70s coming up. So when we think of the 70s, and what was happening in the 70s, 70s was just a continuation, a stronger continuation of the 60s, where we were going back to wearing our hair natural, right? Where we were just embracing who we are and loving who we are and not afraid to do it. Like what? Yeah, you know, I remember last week, or not last week, but a few weeks ago on your show, and the woman, she showed, remember she showed Virginia State's yearbook,
Yeah,
and it was showing it. I was like, oh, that is powerful.
yeah, Dr. Beasley.
Okay, okay, that was powerful. That was powerful. So that's pretty much who my family, who we have been, right, and who we have surrounded us ourselves with, people who kind of have that kind of mindset. But even then, we learn from everyone. You know, I try to embrace everyone.
Yeah, a solid foundation is going into the early stages of your life and everything, which is good, you know. And we try to, hopefully, everybody can somehow. If the foundation of family is not strong, you can still have a foundation of mentors around you to guide you, and that's something like what we're trying to do now in our later years, to connect with our youth, and try to give them something to hold on to and guide them based on the wisdom that we have and even the mistake that we made. That's great. Okay, here we go. This is the part I like because I like how you told me.
What part?
Share your college experience. Tell us how you had. I like this part. This is from last week's show. Tell us how you had to assimilate to the black college culture, given your background growing up with the Yoruba / black nationalism. So here you are.
Why you like that part? Like why? Why you not like that part?
And you leaving your mom and pop's house, your foundation is solid of culture and guidance. And here you stepping on the campus of Virginia State, and we all know how we had to adjust. But tell us about your experience.
So let me just say, I may have misspoke. I assimilated all throughout, so it wasn't just Virginia State. The assimilation process is just part of the American process. So look at my cuz. So trust. Let me see. How can I frame this? So I'm growing up in this cultural experience, like this African centered, I guess, but yeah, African centered culture. Then also segueing into where it's a religious experience also. But in the meantime, I'm still growing up in Brooklyn, so I don't want to make it seem like I was always switching up. Let me just say that. So even in Virginia State, I can speak to that too, but it was always like, you know, I'm wearing a particular dress for a particular ceremony, or I'm wearing boobas and lapas and things like that. But when I went out and left out on 374 Halsey Street, that's my early Brooklyn place. Please, I threw my jeans on, my sneakers on. We hanging out, I'm double dutching on the block because I was good at it, you know. So, you know, handball. Yes, that's a New York thing for the New Yorker. I don't know if they play handball everywhere, but we were handball. So I was always part of that. One thing I can say is I read a lot. So even going to the parties, that was a part of what Uhuru Sasa and that experience instilled in me, reading. So I had books everywhere. My friends used to joke, girl, you the only person we know, if you go into the club and you got a book in your bag while you go. I was like, yeah, because I got to read on the train. We got to take the train there. I'm going to read on my way. Shoot, you're messing around. But I know what you're referring to with the Virginia State component, because I told Ward, I was telling him how by the time I got to Virginia State, I really did feel like I could kind of shed or put behind, not necessarily let's say pack it up a minute, that whole African, my parents thing, because this was my parents thing, right? You have to almost come back to it to make it your thing. So this is like, you know, I'm doing what they want me to do. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But guess what? Now I'm 17, I'm at Virginia State. Boom, let's have some fun. So they had the pub. Those of you remember the pub. I don't know, I remember the pub.
Yeah, the pub.
Yeah, the pub. Oh my God, I was about to live a life now. I was like, so I was telling him that when I got to college, I got my first perm. I think it was Marie. She's one of the Gucci's with us, who gave me my first perm. She'd have to, pretty sure it was. And by the time I went back home, I had blonded my hair, I had a perm, it was blonde. People was like, who are you? Like, I ain't man, Yahoo, living a life. I was living a life. I didn't even, it was that kind of thing. So somewhere in there, you always want to, but like there were times when I always wanted to be what I call normal. That's what it was. I used to always say, God, why can't we just be normal? What on earth do we have to come up like, with this? It's like you love it, yet at the same time, I'm in Brooklyn. I'm right here in New York City. I'm in Virginia State. I don't want to be this. I don't want to do it.
Right.
I just want to be normal, like my friends and like people. I don't want all of this. But like I said, you mature, you grow up. You start thinking, and then you come back and you embrace. You're like, oh, okay. Actually, I do like this. I do get it now.
And that's again, goes back to that foundation and everything. Okay, here we go. Virginia State is behind you now. You have 20 years of educational profession under your belt.
Yeah.
Now tell us how your students, your colleagues, or your administrators embraced or rejected the knowledge. Because I know when we talked, you shared that, when those days in class, for whatever you want to share some culture or some African history or some African culture, you was telling me the kids embraced it. But then outside of that, how some colleagues may have embraced it or rejected it. How did the administrators feel? So how did you maneuver through those type of experiences? It definitely tell us how more. I really want to know more how the kids were receptive to it.
Right. Let me tell you, I would say that when you start speaking to students about Black history and understanding Black history and taking it, from a very surface level, superficial type level, and really get in depth with it and really critical, they are like deers caught in the head. Like they want to hear every single bit of what you are telling them. So it's amazing to see their reaction. They ask questions. Sometimes they may not even ask questions, but I'm an English teacher. Trust me, when I'm sitting there, trying to teach them about the tone and the mood and the effects of certain things, they might be like this. But the minute I began to speak to them and give them explanation for why certain societal ills are taking place, I'm reading Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy McGraw. Great book, but when I begin to start talking about it from a historical aspect, they want to hear it. They really do want to hear it. They're very see, you got to love young people because they're sharp and they really want to learn. So sometimes they recognize some of the stuff that they're learning is just they in their sense they feel like it's not needed, but when they hear anything that relates to themselves and to their culture and why we are and who we are, it's new to them. I don't say it's completely new, but in some ways it is. A lot of stuff is very new. If I begin to speak about some of the empires, talking about pre-slavery is new to them. They can tell you everything that happened during, slavery or after slavery, after 1865 and those experiences. But when you get into explaining to them or just even touching upon Sangay Empire, the Ghana Empire, and Ethiopian Empire and things like that, they're like, what? And it's interesting because some students, like I have some students who are Ethiopian. They don't know anything about their own, they're from Ethiopia. I try to ask them to see, each one teach one. Remember Dr. Quaz was talking about it last time? So I want to see what information they can bring to me because, information is fluid like that. They're like, I don't know. Well, I said, go ask your parents and come back with something good. They don't know because they haven't really studied. So we feel this you see that there's a disconnect in our knowing of our own history. It's our own history. It really belongs to us. but there's this disconnect. And in our minds, we think that it's like, somehow it seems far. But if we really sat still and really did the math and did the numbers and crunched them, we realized that we're not very far removed from Africa. It's not as far away as one would think. You know, because if you think about your great grandparents, and many people in here can probably say who their great grandparents, who was their great grandparent or their great great grandparent. Well, those great great grandparents were probably children of slaves, right? And so that's just a few generations. And then we're just taking us maybe back, it depends, because we know the Mafa, we know that that time period was a very a lengthier time period. I know I mentioned 1619, but we know it goes even further back than that. 1619 is where we look at it from the English sense, you know, in Jamestown. But they were bringing enslaved Africans probably 100 years before then. You know, we're looking at Mexico and, you know, the area called Veracruz. So it's been happening, you know, but still, yet and still, our time periods, we can still connect. We can still connect to the 1800s. So we know that we can probably trace right back to our relative that was in slavery. And depending on when they came, and there was a very huge influx. So Yoruba, was I going to say that to talk about? But Yoruba is the huge influx of Yorubas coming to the Americas was really like in the 17th, 18th century, right? So it was towards the latter half of our slave experience. So that's why most of us, if we start doing these, the Ancestry? Cut my phone up. The Ancestry, you'll notice that a lot of us are from West Africa, from that West African region. And so that West African region was a dominant area where they were taking Africans and enslaving. I mean, if you just look at a map, it's logical, because, you know, look at the transatlantic, right? It's right across the ocean, right? West Africa is right there on that tip, right? We're not even talking in the interior in that sense. So those countries in West Africa, you do your ancestry DNA, many people will see. Ghana, Nigeria, right? Senegal, Guinea, all of them. Those right there in that Western region, right? And that was, a lot of that was to the latter part. The bulk, the multitude was almost to the latter part of the Mayapa, the slave experience. So I guess my point was, we're still very connected. We still feel them. And I'm going to talk about that when I talk a little bit more in depth. But we're still very connected to our people and those experiences in that sense. So my students love it. They want to learn. The staff don't pay me no money. Now, sometimes I've had experience. I have had a couple of run-ins. I've had a couple of run-ins because there were certain things that, you know, I was unwilling to say or do. And, you know, I had to challenge the system. I had to challenge the school, you know, not the school like on a big level, but like an administrator or something like that. We've had a back and forth, and I've had to write a couple of emails, stuff, letting them know, no, unacceptable, not doing that, not saying that, that kind of thing. And even in English, sometimes when we're reading stuff and I'm with my team, you know, we'll read something and I say, oh, this has a level of bias to it. And they're like, why? You know, they can't take me. Like, I try not to be polemic. I don't like to, you know, but sometimes you see it and you have to point it out. And you're like, oh, wait, hold on. Because it's there. You know, that bias, it's there. Our kid, you know. Oh, Lord, I'm going to talk about education. Don't make me do it. I won't.
Back on that, I mean, if people been paying attention to things that I've been posting and conversations that I've had with people, for me, in the road that I'm going down to do my part in helping and reaching these young folks, I post something where I said African history plus African American history equals a self-awakening that like no other, because, you know, you have to understand your history. And some things that I've been, some documentaries lately I've been looking at, and some speeches I've been listening to, you know, it goes deep back, because it breaks down how something started, say like, I'm gonna just use an example. The invasion of Alexander the Great, who was a Greek general, but he was ruthless, and he invaded Egypt, and how he began to twist and turn Egypt in its spiritualness, and for for years later, centuries later, how all of that took place and changed some things. Because if you go back and you dissect things, it helped me to understand more things that's going on for me right now in the present. So I believe everybody who just understand their culture and their own essence of who you really are. I get it. I'm African American. I ain't claiming this. I ain't from there. My nephew crazy posted something on his Instagram page. And I talked to him on the phone. He's just rambling. He said he heard something in the movie American Gangster that Denzel's character said to an Italian, and that's because he don't mess with Africans. I'm like, cuz, are you for real? So I ain't gonna know. But it's just some of them out there like that. So I'm gonna do my due diligence to just be the messenger, and I really appreciate what you're doing. So now you're at the Kennedy Center. Here you are. It's a speaking engagement. It's all yours. Take it away. Rock it.
The JW Effect, Kennedy Center, aka JW Effect.
All yours. That's bring it down.
So let me just say, my big brother Ward here asked me just to express and talk about the Yoruba tradition a little bit. So I will pretty much extemporaneously kick it. I wrote a little notes, but I don't know if they're gonna help me because. So I wanted to say that the Yoruba Lukumi tradition, and it goes by different names in different places in different regions, right? It's a we call it religion on this side of in the New Worlds, the Americas, but in Africa, in Nigeria, that particular region, that area, and like Dahomey, that West Africa part, it was just a way of life. That was their way of life. So because we had to go through, just the unfortunate experience of being a part of the slavery system, we had to codify it in such a way and make it a religion in that sense. So my practices and the practice that we embrace is called Yoruba Lukumi, and it came through Cuba. So I know I saw where you put up a post with Osurgiman, and you mentioned him, the Oyutunji village. So he was one of two first African Americans to go to Cuba and to get initiated, and then to come back to the United States. So many of us learned through the Cuban practices. They were some early, Osurgiman and Chris Oliani were earlier teachers, but there were many Cubans. We learned through Cubans. They were Cubans. So let me pause for a second. The practices went to Cuba. So a lot of the enslaved Africans were in Cuba, were taken to Cuba. A lot of enslaved Africans were taken to Brazil. So in Brazil, you may hear candomblé, the term candomblé. Matter of fact, there were many in Brazil. So if you ever go to Bahia, even in Rio, but particularly even in Bahia is like little Africa. You'll see signs and stores and all kinds they have schools with Yoruba names, right? The school where I went to a school that was in Tejedo, that's like their sacred land, compound, almost like there's different Tejedos. Yoruba was they were learning Yoruba language. We in school learning Spanish, Italian, all that. They were learning Yoruba. I was like, oh, this is kind of fly. So it was Brazil, it was Cuba, it was Trinidad, and this is where you see it, where it was dominantly held onto and made into a religion in that sense. You're gonna see traces of it in the Caribbean, in the different places, right? Later, Puerto Rico was really big. And then now the United States. So there are many of us here in the United States, in New York and Florida and California and Texas, places that practice the Yoruba Lukumi tradition. It's not just, and like I said, I should say better, let me say better, the Yoruba tradition. Because like I said, in other places, it may be called something else, right? Candomblé in Brazil, or Shango Baptist in Trinidad, different things. So we began practicing this in the early 70s, like I said. But so just to tell you a little bit about it, we believe in God. People have asked me that. Do you believe in God? Yes, of course. Okay, we believe in God. We absolutely believe in God. We refer to him as Olodumare. Because we American though, we say God all the time. I don't have to say the word Olodumare or Alofi. Alofi is another name. I could just say God, but we believe in God. But then we also believe in Orisha, right? It's called Orisha, and they are like God's helpers. This is my simple way. I wrote a book, Growing Up Yoruba. It was for teens, really, but some adults, a lot of adults kind of enjoyed it as well. So we believe in Orisha and Orisha to help our lives and help us with experiences. So we call on the Orishas to do many things for us, to help us in our lives, and we also honor and venerate them as well. And we believe in our ancestors. So that's the part I think I want to put more emphasis on right now. And particularly, I want to go there, the ancestor worship or the ancestor veneration. That's our thing. That's our thing. It's all our thing. But the ancestor, understanding ancestor and respecting and calling on ancestor is such a, it's such a intricate part of what we do. So we can't do anything without, matter of fact, it's ancestor first. We can't do anything without giving homage and praise or respect or acknowledgement or upliftment to our ancestor. We have a term, Egun Lobi Ocha, so we always say the ancestors before the Ocha, before the Orisha, before the other deities that we have help, we say, but you need to speak to mama, big great grandmama, big great 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 grandma, those who we know and those who we do not know. So when we look at the ancestor thing, they're the familiar, right? People we know who have passed. And then there are those who we don't even know, right? Because we come from a lineage. As Yoruba, we believe that we live on a continuum, so that even when we go, we return back to our ancestors. And then even when we come, we are coming from our ancestors. We aren't coming from, wherever, right? The abyss or something. That we are coming from that line, that we belong to our ancestors. So we're always giving praise to them. We're always giving honor to them. And just like we ask our ancestors to help us get better in life, to help us with things, right? Whatever it is, spiritually, just help us, uplift us, feel better, whatever. But we also recognize that that is a reciprocal relationship, that sometimes we have to pray to help them, to help our ancestors, because we don't believe that this is a very, that it's just, what's the word, kumbaya, like it's just perfect, right? It's like you don't die, oh, now I'm perfect life with a halo over our heads. We don't necessarily believe that. We also believe that sometimes we have people in our family, ancestors, who have died tragically, right? They had horrible, they left before their time. So we know that on our side, we have a responsibility to them as well, that we have a responsibility to help them uplift, to help them elevate. That's what I'm looking for, to help them elevate to another level, right? So we don't see that's our biggest thing. So we stay in that reciprocal relationship with our ancestors, ones we know, ones we don't know. We pray to them, we ask for them for things, and we listen. So we also believe that the ancestors talk to us, that they stay talking to us, whether we're sitting in front of a spiritual altar and saying prayers, or whether we get dreams, we get messages. Sometimes people see things, you know, and as so I can't speak for other people. I can speak for Black folk, for the souls of Black people, as we say. You know, the souls of Black people, African people, we feel stuff, right? So this isn't, you don't have to be, this is not me speaking because I'm Yoruba and a priest or whatever. I'm saying this is you. I'm saying this is you. This ain't me. This is us, right? We hear them, we see them, we feel them. We just may not know what we hear, see, and feel, but oh, we hear them, we see them, and we feel them. All of us, right? And they want to connect with us, right? And they want us to be able, this is what we believe, right? That they want us to still be able to acknowledge them. You know, the whole, when we look at the Black Lives Matter movement in those experiences, and they say her name. Say, you know, say her name, Sandra Bland, say her name, right? All of say the name is because they still live, even if they are not here in a physical body. They exist. They've always existed, and you can't erase them. So don't forget their story. Don't forget who they are. Say their name, call on them, uplift them in that sense, right? So we believe in that. What was I going to say about the ancestors? So it's familiar, it's family, it's lineage, it's those who have even passed, just on the line, right? Even from the transatlantic experience, because we know so many, you know, didn't even make it across, that died. They did not even make it across these waters in that sense, right? And then so many who obviously continue to uplift us. So we believe in that. That's to us almost big, or as big, or maybe even bigger than even our veneration and understanding of the Orisha, who we are. That's so extremely important. Then so when we, and this will be a quick overview, so I keep going. And you could just jump in if I'm talking too much, or just let me know, because you know, I told you I talk too much.
No, I told you, like what you said when you did it on last show. You were like, yeah, I know I can talk. I know I can talk. I told you.
I know. I'd be like, girl.
This is your time. The path that I'm taking with my platform and my show, you know, I'm emphasizing on history from the African American standpoint and the African history standpoint, because I believe it's important. And for me to share with you and my viewers, ever since I've tapped into this, I wake up in a good spiritual mood. I lived in this village. At nighttime, when I was out with the fellas, just in the village, you know, talking, I could feel the energy. But I wasn't in the right mind to understand. But right now, I know it's real. This is in our blood. I understand some of us, all we know is European colonialism and American culture. It's not our fault. It's just the way it is for us. But it takes a lot. It takes for some people to have I would call it the integrity to step outside the box and look at your blood. Like a lot of entertainers and actors, when they started the ancestral DNA test, you know, they was jumping on it and everything. I saw a thing on Samuel Jackson that he found out where his blood came from. Yeah. He went back and visited. So a part of them want to know, but then a lot of them don't want to know because of the comfortability of what it is. So, you know, all like me and you and many of us, many people on here that's watching, they know, but all we can do is give the message. They still have to make their mind up. I'm not grilling it in nobody. I'm just gonna share it because I know it's a beautiful thing. And some of the things that's entwined in there, they'll be like, whoa, the Risha, whoa, the ancestors, you know what I'm saying? But it's who you are. You know, I was telling somebody real quick, I'm gonna let you get back to this because we rolling. I told somebody the other day, if I was Irish American, French American, or anything like that, Jewish American, I would tell you I'm Jewish American, and you ask me, what's your culture? For Jewish, they study the Torah and they follow that. But if you ask an African American, what's your culture? They're gonna say America. With it, okay, but no, you know what I'm saying? Some people understand what I'm saying. So that's just what I'm doing. So keep rolling, yo. This your, it's your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, but you're right. I know exactly what you mean. So the other aspect, so we go from the ancestors to the Orishas, and the Orishas are, so I said they're like God's helpers in that sense, deities, right? But they are forces in nature. So in a skinny, right, in a little small summativeness looking at things, we are nature worshipers in that sense, that we believe in nature. All right, we believe in the environment, nature. So we see the Orishas in different forces that exist in nature, in the ocean, in the rivers, in the mountain, in the volcanoes, in a big field. The Orishas in swamps. We have Orishas that we identify with the swamp areas. So many of the aspects of nature in that sense are where we see Orisha and understanding that we can go to Orisha in those particular areas and ask them to help us, to help uplift our lives, to just make the conditions. And somebody said, the conditions that exist. We search, we stay in aim and search for the good condition, right? That's practically our whole journey while we're here walking this world. We're looking to see how can we make good conditions for ourselves and how can we make good conditions for others? How can we make this a better experience? So the Orishas help us. We believe in the Orishas because they help us to be able to do that. They help us to be able to navigate areas where we can't get outside of ourselves, right? Where we can't think and get clear and get clarity and stuff. We will go and get, so one of our practices is we do divination, right? So people go and get readings, and the readings will kind of give us a map, and they're individualized. So it's not a reading necessarily that is, your reading, or it will look differently from mine because it's towards, it's for you. What do you need to do for you to make a difference in your life, right? And the Orisha may say, there may be one particular Orisha that's working more closely with you, and they will have some things that they need you to do to help, for your own path. Because it's a path, right? This is all our journey. This is all our paths. So we see nowadays, we've been doing it a long time. I see nowadays there are more people getting involved, more people learning and understanding. I'm starting to see it not starting, but I guess in the last 10 years, we see it popping up in rap songs, references to the Orisha and songs. And I mean, which is really cool. It's cool because actually, when we really think about it, for us, especially the Black American experience, it came out of the cultural arts experience anyway. A lot of our understanding and knowledge from early on came out of that because Osurgeman, he was now I think he was a dancer. I feel like I believe it was a dancer. Hope I'm not misquoting, but he was in the cultural arts. So Catherine Dunham is like a famous name you've heard of and stuff like that, right? They were the singers and the dancers and the musicians, especially the drummers and stuff. They were one of the early people to begin to start because they were very closely connected with the Cuban people, right? And with people who had come over with the, what's it called, Mario boat lift? I feel like in my history confused, but when the influx of Cubans had come because they were escaping Castro and okay, 1959. Yeah, right, the revolution. So anyway, they were all connected. A lot of them, they studied with the Cubans, well, they were African Cubans or the white Cubans. They studied and then they started learning about the Orisha like that. So that whole, so some people are like, oh, they singing our songs, they co-opted, this rap music. I said, yeah, but it came out of that culture in the first place. That's how we kind of began to learn about it, even back, in the 50s. Babaloo, Babaloo, that Ricky Ricardo and I Love Lucy shouting out Babalu, da, 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 da. He's singing to Babalu Aye. Okay. It was a Orisha of Orisha of a healer. He's a healing Orisha, you know, he deals with pestilence and disease, and we pray and supplicate to him to take that stuff away. But yeah, we all was like kids. We know that he was referring to Babalu Aye in the Yoruba pantheon of Orisha. So anyway, so this is why we go to them. We ask them to help us, and they do. You know, we ask them to help uplift our lives, bring a level of good conditions. I'm gonna stay with that term, to our lives, because you know, what's the point, right? What's the point if we can't figure out how to make it palatable for ourselves, you know, worthy and good? Then it's like, damn, we'll be here, right? We want it to be good. We know it's a struggle. We know it's a struggle, but we ask them to help us with these struggles, these orishas. So we have, I'm initiated to Yemanja. That's the orisha that I have, what we call crown, right? When I say 90 years, we say crown. So Yemanja is a orisha that's looked at as the mother, represented in the mother of all orishas. The ocean, people go to the ocean to supplicate to her. She's the nurturer, amongst other things, right? And then we have the Obatala. Obatala is like the highest, well, and then who telling it, but like the highest, he's the exalted one. He's the highest of the Orisha in that pantheon. And he is like the father of all the Orisha, and he represents peace and calmness and clarity. You know, those kind of things. So we ask Obatala, wisdom. Let me not leave out wisdom. We ask Obatala to help us find that level of peace within ourselves, that level of peace. You know, sometimes we ask them even just for the world. There's Oshun. Many people probably have heard Oshun because that's the nature of Oshun. She's gonna make sure you hear her. She ring bells. So people hear her in the songs. I'm tickled because we have people who are in the tradition. They get annoyed because they're like, "Oh Lord, look at them! They sing it Oshun song." I'm like, let them sing it. Who cares? I mean, that's because I think that for us, that's what Orisha, they don't want to be. As you say, in that box, they want to expand on some levels, right? But we don't proselytize in the sense like, I believe everybody can do them, you know? Like, I have friends who are Christian. I have friends who are Muslim. I have friends who are in all different, for me, that's beautiful because I think people have to find them. You know, they have to find what will help their spirit to uplift, to bring them to the next place. So that's why we don't necessarily proselytize in the sense of saying, well, you got to come on over here to our way. No, you may not have to, right? You really may not have to. You have to figure out in your own, for me, that's, you know, my personal standpoint. I think people have to figure out what works for them in their spirit. But people love Oshun. I know I heard Oshun speaking in my ear right now going, hey, you leave it, you was talking about me, go back. So Oshun is represented. She's the Oshun is like seen as the goddess of love and fertility and sweetness and honey. And she's not just that, trust me, right? Because she also is the reflection of yourself in the mirror. Oshun says, look at yourself. Like you might look externally at the world for this beauty and you might want someone else to validate you, but Oshun says, look at yourself. So in our shrines, so Oshun, you often see mirrors around because she wants you to see you and just love yourself. That's bigger than any love you could possibly put out there in the world. Love yourself. And we have Shango. Kawo Kabiasile Shango, right? Shango is a deified Orisha who we say is the king. Shango is the king. Shango says, live your life to the fullest. Enjoy it. He doesn't like you to be depressed. He doesn't like you to be down. Shango is like triumphant. He likes you to triumph and stuff. Even if you, what do they say? try it. What's that line? Now I'm forgetting. Try again, fail better. Cornel West always says it. I love it. It's a Samuel Beckett quote. That's what Shango says. Shango says, well, try again, fail better. Go, live strong. Just go for it out there in the world, right? So he wants you to be a part of life, be a part of all the experiences that are in life. So there are times when we have to pray to, and then we have a Legba, and we have Oya, and we have Ogun. There's different, and there are numerous different orishas. I won't go into because different ones. But whatever at different times is happening in our lives is sometimes what we need. Sometimes we need that Yamanjai energy. And then sometimes we need the Shango energy, like, like, I had to come in. When I come in here, I was like, all right, Shango, you better help me out. Come out in here talking to these folks. But we got to call on different things but they're represented. So we talk about it, our shrines and our homes and things like that, but they also represented in the forces of nature out there in the world. They're part of the world. Did I have another point? I may have, but I probably lost it.
But what I'm gonna say real quick is, when I was there for the 12 months in Oyotunji, I did get my reading. That was the reason I went there. I got a reading when I got there, and I had my ancestor pot. You always have an Elegba pot, because he's the trickster. He sits on the crossroad, and they usually do part of the culture of the ceremony of that. They do two. I remember that they do two ceremonies, and one of them they tell you what Orisha rules your body, and that's how far I went with it. And it was amazing that I learned through that experience that the Orisha Oya rules my body, and Oya is the wind. She's the wind, the force. That's her force. That's where her realm she sit. And then my sponsor, who sponsored me when I was down there, and the more I learned about Oya, and I still have a lot of pamphlets and information when I lived at the village, that my whole life has been just all over the place, chaos, the wind, and understanding it from a culture standpoint, I get it. And while you was talking, if I'm gonna make 2 points, and I'm gonna keep letting you roll. We go back, we know how the Native Americans flow. They all about nature. It's no different. They have their spiritual world. They live within the land, within nature, and what they believe in their spiritual world. We all love the movie Black Panther. We was all black, rock.
Yeah, right.
One of the scenes when they brought him back, when they thought he was dead, he went back to the ancestral realm to talk to his father. And they was like, come on home. He was like, no, I'm not. But it's we'll watch a movie and be like, oh, yeah. But when we sit back and I'm like, oh, come on. But that's what's in our blood. And like Campbell was saying, choose and go the route that works for you. We're not here to, pound it in your head. We just want to share the information because it's beautiful. It is so beautiful and colorful. And once you kind of understand it and that third eye open and you feel something that you ain't right and you tap into it, you'll see that, oh, wow, I'm having that spiritual awakening. That's why when a lot of y'all see me post, things now, I'm posting ancient African proverbs, Native American proverbs. I'm kicking that spirit, that self-awakening, because every day I wake up, I'm just feeling like that. But I just wanted to make that point. So what else you got before we go into the Q&As?
No, that was a great, I think that was a great point that you made, because we don't recognize that we do identify with certain things, right? And we may not recognize what we are identifying with, right? Because who was saying, I know we were on a call, and I think it was Tiffany. Right? Well, she said she liked outside. She said she liked nature. She liked walking in the woods, and she liked that experience and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, I know she does, because, the woods is where the warriors are, right? So I love it too. So it brings you some level. There's something out there. that calls on you. You feel it, right? So you see the trees, you see the grass, you see that serenity. That serenity is what is part of the Orisha experience. Because they're in nature, there's a level of a serenity that all these forces bring to us, to our experience, right? We like, yeah, I can feel this, you know? And so we go and we speak to it. We look at Orisha, they're an entity to us, right? They're alive, kicking, you know, entity. So we respect them, we speak to them, and we try not to denigrate Orisha in that sense. This is why, like, if I go to the river, if I'm hanging out by the side of the river, then I'm not gonna just soil the river just to, you know, throw my trash in there,
Right.
you know, throw stuff on the ground. We're, you know, I say we naturists, and on some levels we're environmentalists. It forces us to be environmentalists in that sense too. So we take up certain environmental causes, environmental understandings in that sense, because all of that, you know, all the deforestation that goes on. I think because we have been very religious in the sense that I find we do need to break out into being a little bit even more social conscious, you know, in terms of what's happening in the world, because we don't have a whole lot of organizations that actually are involved in, just like mentioned, in deforestation. I know in Brazil, the women of the Tejeros, the Made Santos, they call them Made Santos, they're very much environmentalists, so they get involved in a lot of stuff. But I think what I just want to say is that we need like a healing, like a universal healing,
Right.
as Black people, you know, as African people, right? That the trauma that we have gone through, that we still live with it, right? Whether we recognize it or not, but we still kind of have these inherited generational curses almost that just sort of flow through our veins that we don't even know, you know, that we don't know how or what, but we were never the people to do the work. You know, this is why I applaud my sister Tiffany and other people, I'm not sure, you know, who do that work where it's healing people's trauma, because we're traumatic, we have trauma, right? And so the Orishas and our Eguns, they want to help us with the trauma. But you know what? Our Eguns also had trauma. They born and died with trauma. So that's why we have to uplift them sometimes too. But we ask the Orishas to help us with that process. And then what are they asked? Someone wants to ask me, what do they ask of you? Not that much. Not that much. And compared to what I'm asking, not that much. Sometimes we got a couple of apples, you know, it depends. So we give offerings. I don't want to say that we don't. We do give offerings. We have shrines and we may give offerings at different times. With our ancestors, like for me, there's always food. So if I cook something in my home, then I'm always going to put some food down to the ancestor shrine, right? And when somebody say, and they don't eat it? No, they don't eat it. You crazy people. No, that's what my friends, a couple of people asked me once. I was like, no, they don't eat it. No, but it's symbolic. It's symbolic. So we put that down. We give, you know, different offerings and stuff. I think everything, life is a funny thing because everything is a two-way street in terms of relationships. So the only way the Orisha will even be acknowledged and known is we have to say their name too. Like we have to acknowledge them. So by acknowledging them, they can acknowledge and help us, because those things that we don't acknowledge go, they disappear. Things that we don't remember, we don't say. I used to tell my daughters all the time, you know why there's a Martin Luther King holiday? They like, oh Lord, why? But no, I mean, besides it's just a day off. I mean, I said, because we have to remember Dr. Martin Luther King. I said, and because the minute, I said, if we were not celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King, then it's possible to forget him. And it can happen in a very short time. We could say Martin Luther King, and I didn't teach my children, or, you know, us, you know, Martin Luther King, they may have just heard just a little trickle about it. By their children's lifetime, they'd be like, who was Martin Luther King? What are you talking about? What? it's gone. It's gone just that fast because nobody held it up. Nobody held him up. Nobody held up Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X. Nobody held these people's names. So we're responsible, whether we read a lot of stuff, but we forget our responsibility in this process. Look at Dawn. We forget our responsibility. We're responsible on some levels, right? So it may not be to a classroom full of people. It could be to 5 people, or it could be to 100 people. I don't know, right? It depends, right? It depends on how your level of what you bring. But we do have a responsibility to say the names of those who put in this fight. Because people keep thinking that this fight is over. So when we think the fight is over, that means we're in this slumber position, that we sleep. People say, I'm woke. But what are you really saying when you're saying you're woke? What's that mean? I mean, what does that really mean? What woke mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, so woke is that embracing that African consciousness and understanding in history, right? I slumbered many a time. Many a time, like, I don't know. I just want to make my money and buy me some fly shoes and take a nice trip. And I don't want to, But we can't feel like we can escape the responsibility because our ancestors didn't. We always say this, that they lived and died, but no, they really did live and die. It ain't like they lived and died. No. They lived and died, and we can't whitewash that. We can't sugarcoat that experience. That's the experience that our people went through. There's no way to put any Band-Aid on that to make that softer than what it was and what it is, and the Jewish people have never, ever downplayed what happened to them in their Holocaust, right? In their experience, that period, right, of genocide for them. So we for ourselves can never act as if, I don't want to talk about this thing anymore. It's not saying we have to beat each other in the head with a bunch of movies, but they need to exist. Our stories need to still be told, and people need to know the hardship of our stories, and we need to heal. We need to figure out how, as a people, to really heal. And I think a lot of times we didn't even recognize that we need a healing. But I think what you are trying to do, Ward, and what Tiffany and Kimberly and Janine, are trying to do is try to bring a platform to make us see through different lenses, right? To see ourselves through different lenses, to look at different perspectives, to learn about other cultures, because these are cultures we really shouldn't be ashamed. We're only ashamed because we're living this American experience.
Yeah, we don't know. And it's not our fault that we don't know. Now, check this out. I got a lot of questions for you. So we're going to get to the question. I wanted to cut you, but every time I got ready to say something, I'm getting smacked in the back of the neck. And I'm like, let that energy flow. And that was a lot of energy. So we got Kim. This is how I wanted to say it. My producer was in my ear to let me know that we had some questions for you. So I'm gonna bring my producer in and let her do her thing. What we got, Kim? Oh, now we can't even hear.
No, I can't hear her.
Can't hear Kim. That's to unmute. No. All right, until you figure that out, I'm gonna go ahead. I know we got a question from, we'll go with Ron, Quasi. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Quaz.
Okay, he might be out. Okay, let's move on. What we got? We have, we have 2. I need you, Kim. This ain't
My bad, Ward.
Okay, you in?
Yeah, man.
What you got?
Hey, Kimber.
Okay.
I loved you last week, Quaz, a couple of weeks ago. That was great.
Thanks for the support, sweetheart. Hey, look, my question is, I was part of a rites of passage program probably in the early 90s. And at the end of each session, we the mentors along with the boys, we paid homage to our ancestors, in which we called out our ancestors, and we poured water into a plant. I forget the name of it, but
Libation.
say again.
For libations.
Yep. There you go. Is that also part of your the practice in
Oh,
your
oh
okay.
yeah, absolutely. Everything we do, we open up with pouring. I guess what you say, pouring libation. So we
Right.
call
Yeah.
it the majubas. So we open like majuba lopi, majuba lodumare, majuba eho, majuba luo, majuba baba loshi alosha,
Yeah.
majuba sada tiako da, majuba dun, I don't, mope don't, majuba, ibai bai tanu. And those are praising our giving praise to Alofi, to God, giving praise to God, giving praise to our ancestors, giving praise to Orisha, giving praise to our mother and our father, giving praise to our godparents, those who bring us up in the tradition, and then calling out, like you said, calling out the names of our deceased ancestors, whether older or younger than us, but we always do that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and actually people, and I think there may have been like a movie like Coolie High, something like that, or is and keeping it real is what some brothers sometimes do.
Yeah.
They don't realize that, when they're with the fellas and when they're having drinks and when they, will pour some on the ground for some of the, some of the homeboys that passed on, they really don't realize that they are performing libations also. And it was a reflection of as you just mentioned. So I just wanted to, and I've been trying to think of the term for like ever since I logged on, but I'm glad you kind of cleared my memory. And but again, it's amazing how the things that we do currently is connected to some of those practices and cultures.
Yep.
So I appreciate.
And that's a great example. Yep, everybody does that.
Yeah.
For a little bit to the homie. Yep.
Yeah.
We grew up doing that.
Yep.
Get out in Brooklyn.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that, Dr. Holloman.
Hear me now,
There you
Ward?
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, we got our producers with her.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that, you all. Okay, so you have two other questions, and these came from Tiffany. So the first question was, what does the initiation involve?
So there are levels to initiation, but the early and pretty much the first step that when a person is like sort of just getting involved is they receive what we call alekes. Those are these. Some people say koyales, but we say alekes. So they receive, excuse me, they receive those these particular necklaces, beaded necklaces, and that process in getting in that is having a godparent. So that's just a spiritual, a person who's going to guide your spiritual practice and make you, teach you and give you your teachings and just basically guide that process. When we get to the, and then throughout that particular process, there may be different things that a person has to receive or do. But the initiation in terms of becoming a priest is a year-long initiation. Some things I can say, some things I can't. There's some things, but we wear white. I can say that. I can say we wear white for a whole year. And then there's some other, it's sort of sacred, so I can't tell all of it, but it's a process where we try to have a person strip away ego, strip away vanity and ego in that sense, and sort of get much more in tune with themselves and in tune with their orishas and things of that nature. So it's a real, it's very humbling, humbling process. I think, I think my cousins were there, and some of my Gucci friends were there when I got initiated in 1990. I can't remember who was there. I remember Craig and Smitty from Virginia State. They came. They were all like, so I had to, I'll tell you one little piece. You have to, it's a 7-day initiation process. So there's a throne that is built, and you can't come off the throne for the 7 days. That's it. Ain't gonna tell too much more. So it's an interesting thing, but it's nice. It's nice. It's actually very beautiful. A lot of people, community come, and they'd be like, you know, it's good.
Thank you. I didn't want you to break any sacred,
Yeah,
the sacredness of it.
Got eyes in here. They're gonna be like, we heard her say. You're gonna be like, near my big mouth. Like, don't say
And
it.
after I sent Kim the question, I thought about it. I was like, I said, it might be sacred. I said, she probably can't tell anything. I mean, a lot of it, but maybe
Exactly.
just give us a taste.
It's beautiful, but that's a process, because it takes people a minute to, you know, get to that point. You know, you gotta do some work, and you gotta see if that, you know, I always tell people, you gotta see if that's, first of all, one, if it's for you, because there are readings in the process, so things have to be read out to say, because maybe everything ain't for everybody, as we say, right? But a lot of times.
And I just have one other thing to say. You know, I in my own journey, my spiritual journey, and I know within the past year and a half, I've been going through what I've called like spiritual enlightenment, and on this journey to seeking a higher level of consciousness. And just some things in the process I didn't seek out intentionally, but was drawn to it, like the nature. Wasn't something that I had always done, but I have been increasingly drawn to nature, increasingly drawn to water. And that's just been happening as you were talking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is part of our heritage and part of the traditions that you follow. And then another thing is, one belief that I believe I've probably always had is when you talked about the ancestors return to you, they stay in, they don't necessarily go away. I've always believed that. I've always believed that when a family member dies, the next baby that's coming is a baby that's coming, is an ancestor that's coming back. And when you said that, I was sitting over here like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like drawn into, and so it's forces unknown to me that's helping draw me in that direction. So I just had to say that, because you just, you know, you touched on some points, and I was just like, okay, so.
You're on point, though. I say on point.
But thank you for sharing everything.
And this other question also comes from Tiffany too. So Tiffany wanted to know, was it frowned upon by the Black nationalists when you returned home with a perm?
Not probably, but not verbally. Put it that way. Probably they like looking at you like, Lord have mercy. But I think you get a lot of rope. You get a lot of leeway and understanding. You know, you're young. You know, I went to college at 17. You know, we're young. They, not, like I said, not in the sense that they, you know, were coming after you or attacking you or saying anything, you know, like, what is wrong with you or anything like that. No. They kind of just let us be, you know, let us be in that sense, and let you do you, you know, that you're going to go through the whole growing pains, the whole trying to understand this life, you know. And the thing is, you can't hold people too tight, you know, so you got to loosen the reins on some levels so that people can have free will, people can make choice. You know, I believe I'm in this by choice. You know, I know people who have grown up the same way, and they've made other decisions, right? So I could have gone another way, but I came back. You know, I stayed a part of this tradition. I can't even say I came back. I never really left, but you know, I'm just saying, I've always, you know, I didn't have to, because they give you choice. Life gives you choice.
Because then you came home permed and blonde, but they're letting.
And blonde.
But they let you go through your natural growth experiences. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we all trying to figure it out. That never changes. We all trying to figure it out. Like.
Kamba, so this is from Michelle. She says, thank you, Kamba, for your teaching. I would like to attend a school of Oshara. Did I say that right? Orisha. Okay. Studies. Okay. I'm getting there. I'm learning too. It says, she asked, do you have any recommendations?
Where did she live?
Where do you live, Michelle?
Because that part.
New Jersey.
Say it again.
New Jersey.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, Michelle. Oh, look, I'm looking right at her. Yeah, look, absolutely. In Jersey. My mother is in Jersey, and I have
Okay.
god brothers and god sisters that are in Jersey. And oftentimes, the first step people usually do is they just go get a reading. They get a reading, and then a reading kind of gives them some insight. And normally, we would tell them to come to somebody's like Ocha birthday. That's like the day they were initiated to celebrate, or a drumming.
Mhm.
Corona has kind of made it crazy. You know, it's so funny because
Right.
a lot of people are still to learn, and then they're like, well, where do I go now? And it's like, I don't know, because things are still happening, of course, but they're just on a not as a like the drummings could be 100 people or whatever. Like, come to the drum. Now we're doing all that, you know, until Corona passes us through. But readings are still taking place, and you know, understanding, learning, and things like that. That's still happening as well. So I always like figure out where somebody is, because it may be easier just for them to, you know, connect with people in their area and stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are welcome.
All right, so the floor is open for anyone who has questions. You can either put your question in the chat, or you can open your mic. Let's see here. Okay, so someone says I have a statement question. I'm going to let that person come on, because I think that's a question that Kamba would really be interested in answering. Is that you, Yolanda, who has that question?
It is me.
Okay.
What's
So
up?
what's going on? What's going on? So it's a statement question. First of all, it's my first time actually seeing. I've heard so much about the JW effect and how it has affected, you know, so many people. So I'm grateful to be able to tune into this particular show. My cousin Kamba is the host right now. She made us all come on. She was like, "Come on, please," just in case, you know.
Just gotta tell on me.
If I'm telling, you know, I'm telling. But I wanted to say, you know, you had mentioned earlier when you was, you know, explaining, you know, starting the Yoruba, and then how your grandparents, they were Christian and how they turned over. And, you know, we ourselves have a history of that. And the fact that the religion of Christianity and pertaining to the slaves, and then also how Yoruba was transferred through slavery, and how they had to hide it, like, you know, trying to stay true to who they were, and how it kind of came through that step. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of have you say something about that, and how it is a close tie. You know, it's definitely a close tie, and it's in maintaining our Africanism.
Absolutely. Yeah, cuz you just went right to it. Absolutely. No, it is. I mean, there is, and I'm glad you kind of just focused in, or, you know, pinpointed that in that sense, because our ancestors, our enslaved Africans, did come with a sense of understanding, a sense of their own traditions, knowing their own traditions, you know, trying to hold on to their own relics and beliefs. Yet they were forced into Christianity because that was the religion of the European, you know, the captives in that sense, right? The slave owners, right? That was their religion. So there was not a thing where you could say, you couldn't be open and just be like, well, you know, I practice Yoruba, or I'm, you know, your own customs. You had to do what they, you know, this is the harsh reality. The harsh reality is you were forced to do what they asked you to do in terms of religious practices, and you had to put your own things we had to put our things to the back burner. So this is where syncretism came in. So they began to see the connection between certain things that were in Judeo-Christian processes, and connect it and make a connection. So like we did it very, very strongly in the Catholicism. You see it because you see the saints, right?
Right.
We have Santa Barbara, and they connect Santa Barbara with Shango, or St. Lazarus. You know, they hear St. Lazarus in the Catholic was all about healing, and the saint they used to call on to heal people, and we had Babalu Aye. So they pretended to act like that they were worshiping and giving homage to the certain Christian practices and stuff like that, yet they were really honoring their own deities, their own Orisha and stuff, right? Yeah. And when I went to Brazil and Bahia, they have the Sisterhood of the Boa Morte. I love these women. The Sisterhood of Boa Morte. You go to their church, and in the church, when you walk in, it's a church, and I think there's a Black Madonna in the front, if I recall, and it's a church. But you go through another door. You go through the other door, and it's still like that. They kept it like that. So in the front is the church. You go through the other door, all the Orishas. They got the Orishas. It's a whole nother experience behind that other door, right? Because that was still had to be masked, and we have, you know, we've had to do that here, even in United States, you know, in Americas. We've had to sort of mask our things. We still have traditions that are inherently African, right? But we just are unaware. In New Orleans, you go to New Orleans and they practice this thing called hoodoo, not voodoo, but the hoodoo system. Hoodoo talks about the Black American African. I can't talk about it like on a grand level because I ain't studied like that, but I know it's all those little practices that African people were doing from particular regions that they are bringing back up to the limelight. And it's things we do all the time, whether we sweep from the back of the house to the front of the house. There's all these little things that we do. Kwaz mentioned the pouring.
Right.
Somebody was telling me about the playing hopscotch. I was just talking to a friend the other day. Dr. Kokava Sidiatou Selassie, she's a renowned scholar, Toni Morrison laureate, but she was talking about the Congo hopscotch is really a Congo step. And Toni Morrison's great for writing about stuff like this because
the connection.
Toni Morrison just breaks it down so like amazingly. But she, in Song of Solomon, one of my favorite books, she said, when he was in search, not guitar making, was it when he was in search for his family and his roots, he didn't realize it was like, you know, at some point, well, I won't spoil the book for people, but there was a point when he discovered that
he was always
he was in search with, the children were outside singing it, doing hand and they were telling his whole story. Telling his whole story like this, telling the whole ancestral line. So these things they were captured in stealth in what's the word? Hidden ways. I'm looking for another word, but hidden ways in that sense, right? And the same, that's why our song, that's why the Gospels, there's a lot of the Gospels, you know.
Yes.
Look at it from a real,
there's a true key. There's a true connection.
Yeah, you know, those were, we knew how to hide some stuff because we had to learn how to hide some stuff.
Yep, survival. Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, that we're.
So I mean, it's connection. You know, I just wanted you to really thank you for answering that. You know, just to point out the connection. You know, in the fact that you know, the fact that we had to hide, but we still maintain.
No, we still maintain.
Thank you, Sister Camber, Mama Camber. Thank you.
So, Camber.
Hold on, Karen. And real quick, I want to piggyback on that too, Yolanda. Is, you know, because the road I'm going down, I done had, you know, I had a lot of questions with individuals and of that nature. And it's not that I'm not bashing anything. I just really truly believe in what I feel in my spirit right now, and that we have to be in touch with what's really ours. I want people to think, I tell everybody, and some of y'all know I said it, I just want you to think outside the box. I challenge my clergy, I challenge my educators. I was telling somebody the other day, if we go look at the movie Hidden Figures, when they found out how smart she was, and that scene where they was trying to put the math together to find how to figure out how to keep that capsule from bouncing off the atmosphere, she left the room and she went and pulled the book off the shelf that was ancient math. And they looked at her and told her, it's not going to work. But she told them it's always in the math, because we have to go back to even, to challenge yourself, or, just to challenge, to have an awakening, to really understand what, because thousands of centuries ago, our ancestors, ancient Africans, ancient Egyptians, they was astrotheologic. They was all into that, and they lived peacefully. They lived peacefully. You can find tangible historical facts, information that tells it. And if I just challenge everybody to check it out. At the end of the day, you're gonna make your choice. You're gonna be like, nope, I'm gonna stick with this, because this is where it is. But if you, like many of us sitting on here, sitting on a bachelor's, a master's, or even a doctorate, and you're an educator, I challenge you to take a moment and just check it out. So when somebody asks you a question based on this show or something they might see on TV, you'll have a little bit of knowledge to feel good to be able to answer it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I piggyback off of that, Yolanda. And then, Yolanda, this is the first time I think you checked me out live. So we all go.
You ain't checked me out live. You come on my skincare. Come on my skincare chat.
I owe you one. You put me on.
All right.
But I want to thank you.
But I thank you. I mean, having my cousin on speaking, so well and making having such profound information was great. So, I appreciate that.
Because if we look back to 1984 at the at one of those crazy clubs, who knew where we all would be standing right now? I would say our ancestors been walking with us. The gods been walking with us.
Shame.
We've been touched. And this is why we stand where we stand. We're just a messenger. Once your eye open up and something in you shake you, they got the rest. So I appreciate you. I've always did. So what we got, Kim? I'm sorry for interrupting you, producer.
No, that's all right. So here we go. There were some comments. One was, and I know there's a part two. This is from VA Wright. They said that they would love that she can start by reading some of her books. So that was one thing that someone talked about. The other question or the other comment came from Galaxy 9. I'm not sure who that is, but they say they're waiting for you to, when are you going to start your school for the generations to come and make it a way of life? So that was another comment that you had. Earlier on when Ron came on and he was speaking, one of the guests on said that at their family reunions, they also celebrate that particular ceremony and that they loved it. So I'm glad that you opened it up and shared that. And let's see here. Here's a question from another, this one is a question. This one is, what books would you recommend for beginners to learn?
Okay, good question. I actually, when we started, many of us, we were reading like in the early, I don't know, maybe that was in the 80s, but one of our first books was a book by John Mason, and it's, let me get it's called Black Gods. Let's see if I can get the actual, it is called, no, not that one. He's written several books. It's just John Mason. Oh, Black Gods, Orisha Studies in the New World. It's a really good book. I wrote a book also. Look, I'm holding it up, but it's backwards. Growing Up Yoruba. I think it's coming up backwards, but it's titled Growing Up Yoruba. Oh, good. Oh, hey, I see my mama's on. Good. Black Gods in the New World. So Growing Up Yoruba is a book. There are, if you want it from a historical aspect and understanding the history and stuff like that, there's a book I really like reading it, which was called Santeria from Africa to the New World. It's called The Dead Cell Memories. And that's by George Brandon. Santeria from Africa to America. Santeria from Africa to the New World, The Dead Cell Memories by George Brandon. There are a few others, but they.
My bad.
Yes, you put herself on.
I actually hit the button.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry about that.
I was like, did I mute myself? Oh, okay. There's another one. Not oh goodness.
So maybe what we
I
can
can't think
do,
of that song.
Kimba,
Mhm.
maybe what we can do is have you to give us the list of books that you have, and then we can have Ward to post it on his page, and then we'll have it for our guests. So if they want to check it out, then they can see it. Because
Absolutely.
those are some great books, and especially yours.
Yes, thank you. But yes, they are. Right now, I'm reading all kinds of other stuff as well. I'm in study groups. Like we stay studying and training and trying to, learn some stuff. So while I also read Yoruba books, I'm also reading like African cultural, African history books as well. So like John Henry Clark. What I got over here, I remember. Anybody seen this book before? Because I love it. This Stamped is from the beginnings. It's really African American history. It's by Ibrahim Kendi. He has it. It's on Audible, and Jason Reynolds did a youth version of the same book called Stamped. It's good. It's really, really, really good. But like I said, he gives so much detail. The Audible, if you read it and listen to the Audible at the same time, so you can really get through it. And like I said, he has one for the teenagers too. Like Jason Reynolds remixed the same book. And I'm reading, but I was going through this one now. This is my current. These are my two current. I'm pretty much finished. This is the Sheikh Anta Diop's book, the African. Hold on. The African Origin of Civilization. Make sure I get the title right. Really good book, just to take us back and looking at some foundational stuff as it relates to Africa, right? How Africa came to be, why Africa is our first civilization, the first civilizations in Africa. So coming, people always think of Egypt, but it's really further back down into Ethiopia, and how the Ethiopians migrated up into Egypt, and then how culture spread in the different areas. So it's really interesting. He touches upon a lot of different culture, a lot of different time periods in here. So, and then look, I feel like I'm advertising for these books, but I like them a lot. Is this one I mentioned, the post-traumatic. Tiffany, have you read this? Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Dawn, you may have read it. This is good. This is a really good book because it really gets into us and our experiences and understanding why we are how we are in that sense. So I really so what I'm doing now, like I said, we stay studying, we stay trying to learn. I mean, I don't obviously have all the information on Yoruba because the information is, our patakees. Patakees are like our little stories that we tell to help explain life. That information is, sometimes it's spread, right? So it takes forever. I'll study this religion in this way for all my life. Hey, my cousin Yvette, I know she knows her stuff. Mm-hmm. People know their things, right? I mean, it's all over. Stay studying. But then I said, for myself, for my own personal journey experience, I realized I needed to go back to learn and relearn certain things about African history in itself. Not even just from the religious point, but just like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. So a whole lot of stuff I forgot. I gotta pull it together. So I think that's a good place for all of us in terms. It doesn't even just have to be from the learn Yoruba religious. I think we all need to awaken. What did you say? Awaken the genius. Love that little code. Awaken that genius back within all of us. Because again, if we don't remember it, it will be forgotten. And the work is done. The work has been done. The scholars have done the work. You know, I mean, it's still probably work to be done, but the work is there. It's not like we couldn't access, you know, we can access the books. We can access stuff through, you know, our children. I mean, it don't make sense. I was saying in the last time, they can Google something and they can grab some information, which can lead them to some other information, to some, I said, so it's not so hard now to make information as accessible, but it is our responsibility, you know, to keep our culture and things alive. I remember down here, real quick, I'm gonna push it on back to you, JW, but they had a textbook that came out. They had a textbook that came out, and boy, these parents went in arms, where they were referring to slavery as if it was like indentured servitude type of experience, you know.
Right.
And that was a huge, I mean, so it was like a revisionist taking place. This revising of history, and like, nobody say nothing. We good, y'all. We good. And that's how history gets changed. You know, you change that narrative, you change that story. But why we got to change our story? We're not changing our story from this side of the Atlantic to the other side and the African side of the Atlantic. Our world, African people, were the first civilizations, the first to build up, the first to build building structures. Somebody mentioned the math. JW mentioned the math. I mean, the geometry and all that kind of stuff that had to go into it. Our students are like, oh, we gotta learn geometry. I hate it, whatever. Woo, you know what you know the kind of geometrical understandings they had to have just to build the things that were built, like just the Sphinx, the pyramids, in Nigeria, there's a thing called the Eredo wall. I don't know if I'm saying it right. EREDO wall. They said this wall is like comparable to the Great Wall of China. Oh yeah, we heard of the Great Wall of China, but why we didn't hear about this here Eredo wall? You know, because this knowledge is not, you know. So we just got to find a ways for ourselves to, you know, regardless of religious practice, we got to, you know, also find our ways back in ourselves to learn and relearn and grab that stuff, man, share it.
Yeah, that's basically, you know, I knew when I talked to you, when I first called you weeks ago, and I said, you ready? You're like, what you going? I said, you know what we're going to give them. We're going to give them. You're like, yeah. So it's like, you know, man, and that's all it is. That's all we're trying to do is just go back and learn it and understand it, because they say you put it in a book, they won't even look. But it's in a book and we ain't looking, because, you know, everything else is blocking our mind. Like I said, I'm not trying to change nobody's set. I just want you to step out your box. Step out that box for a minute and just be like, let me check it out. I know it's I done talked to a lot of people over the years, you know, and I even did it when I was in college and throughout my life. Man, I ain't African. Them people over here just taking out money when they going to them exchange students. But as I grew and my mind just opened up, and I'm like, you know, I'm sorry for saying things like that. I'm apologize to my ancestors, because, you know, the history is powerful. It is powerful, because I'm gonna piggyback on something you said. We can look at the different empires, Rome, Greek, all the invaders of Africa. Before they really invaded, they went to study. They learned this, they studied, they understood. So it's almost like, man, we cannot let this out. If we let this out, and if they invoke this power, they can rule, and they kind of understand and know that now. That's why they keep their boot on their neck. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said earlier, African history plus a black African American history it could cause a self-awareness that is like no other. And it's just, you know, it's just a great thing. So, you know, before I shut it down, I want to let you say one more thing that, you know, to take us out, and then I'm gonna do my closing. But hold on, Kim. Was there anybody else?
Well, you have some comments in here, and I thought that they were just really great comments that you know should be brought out. One is Don. VSU 89, she just wanted to let you know that basically, and then she's saying she's proud of you. She was at your book signing at Sister's Place, so peace and blessings, and that's from Don. And then there was a comment here from Anthony Bolin. He said, JW, thank you for bringing this powerful woman and her teachings to our attention. For years, I only had one piece of knowledge about the Yoruba people, and now I have more meaningful connections to the people and my heritage. Thanks for your care and courage to host this program. With gratitude, your friend, Anthony Bolin. And then you had some other people who just talked about the fact that the books that you mentioned came with it. They just thought that they were really excellent books. They've read some of them. And then Tiffany made a comment. I guess it was something to an effect of something that you said. And I can't really recall because there's been so much powerful information shared. She said, in an attempt to water it down and relieve white guilt. So
it was when she was talking about the textbook when they tried to call the enslaved people, you know, and we had a similar issue here too when they were trying to say that we were immigrants.
And you know, let me just say real quick, because we talk about, you know, we don't want to romanticize Africa in too grand of a sense, because we got to recognize that colonialization happened in Africa as well. So while we had our aspect of, you know, we were enslaved Africans and dealing with our slavery experience, they were dealing with being colonized, and that impact. There's a lot of work to do. That's why we, you know, we got to stay vigilant, because that's a whole nother thing. And this is when you begin to see, not even begin, well, you know, you see the videos of people, they're in Africa, they skin lightening, and, you know, the, whatever. I won't go too deep into it and stuff, but that's why it's just a learning process. We got to just keep continuing to learn. And we almost, you know, we have to be careful about our critiques, you know, our judging people, because people are just trying to live that good condition. Again, remember, they're just trying to feel good, live good, but we need to just bring it back to know that it's okay to live good, feel good within who you are. That it ain't a crime. Let's figure it out to know that we can love ourselves and respect who we are. We don't have to be something else, you know, or someone else in that sense.
All right, I appreciate it. And then I'm gonna throw, hold up. We good, Kim?
yes.
Okay. And for me to say this real quick, when I took Africa literature class my last semester at State before I graduated, the first assignment my teacher gave me, she had us write, we had to write a paper on the first one of the videos we had to watch on YouTube was called "The Bible and the Gun," and it breaks down what you was just saying, Cambra, about the colonialization of the continent, where where England played. They show how England played their part, and how who's the word I'm looking for? The explorers came in and started showing the tribes they went to, re-educating them with English, with foreign knowledge, and teaching them how to take away their traditions and introduce them to Christianity. So that was a good movie for somebody was to get off right now when we shut the show down. You go to YouTube and you search "The Bible and a Gun," and you're gonna be, and that's gonna open up something in you too when you see it. Because all the like she said, the work, the scholarly work has already been done. If you see something and they speak on something and you go search it, it's already there. It's already been proven and it's published. So it's opening up your mind, thinking outside the box, and try something new. So with that being said, let me run all this down. I want to appreciate my friend for coming on and really rocking that Yoruba culture, because you know I'm passionate about it, because I was exposed to it. But first of all, I want to say that. Second, I want to thank all of y'all for coming on and, you know, being part of the show. I want to apologize for anybody who came on late. If you was expecting to watch the stream through my Facebook, JW Effect Facebook page, it wouldn't connect in the beginning, so I wasn't able to line it up. But what I'm gonna do is I did record the Zoom. I'm gonna do a watch party as soon as I get off, so you know it can keep flowing. And I put the books in the part of that too, so you can have it. Okay, this is the last show of the season. Kim wanted me to let y'all know we're gonna take a little shorter sabbatical. We're going to be coming back January 10th for part 2 of the Yoruba culture. I have a great guest that's going to share her walk with Yoruba with it. Like Kamba said, there's different. I'm gonna use the word set, but that ain't the right word to use. Yoruba from this area, Yoruba from that area. Her Yoruba comes out of Philly, and with her culture way of Yoruba, they do a yearly reading. So I did a part 2 so we can bring 2021 in culture style, African culture style, Yoruba style. So that's coming. We'll be back on January 10th with that. And I cannot stop but say, continue to thank everybody, because when me and my team, or my Powerpuff Girls, and I'm Mojo Jojo, when we back in July, we never even thought that it would evolve like this. And here we are, season 1, episode 17, and it's growing strong. Good reviews. We're gonna keep pushing it, bringing some good topics to open your mind, awaken your spirit, make you think outside the box. I just want to continue to say thank everybody for the support of the JW Effect and kicking it with the JW Effect. So with that, I'm gonna give you my scripture for the week.
And thank you. I want to just jump in. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. Just appreciate the opportunity to speak about it, get over my little jitters of like, oh, the BSU crew. I loved it though. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all of you, my sisters and brothers, everyone, for just taking a moment to listen. But thank you.
You made it through it.
Yes. Thank you
you.
so
I
much.
appreciate you, Kay. All right, the scripture for the week comes from Ezekiel 34:12. And God's word reads, as a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so will I look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they are scattered on a day of clouds and darkness. Let God's word be a blessing to all. Ashe. Okay, that's it. Hey, I thank y'all. I thank y'all. Came to stick around. When everybody log off, we're gonna do a closeout. Me and you, the team.
Get your picture.
Oh, I see. I'm so okay. Thank you, producer. Hey, everybody. Let me open this up because I had it on speaker view. Get everybody in. Let me close this right here. Yeah, everybody open the camera. Okay, that's 2 pictures because we got a lot of people. Yeah, open them cameras up, please. I need your face. So I get the picture. There we go. Hey, Nay, how you doing, Nay? Hey, how you doing? Long time. Okay, I guess everybody don't want to. Okay, here we go. Let me snap. Okay. Okay, one more. All right, one more. Here we go. One more, because I had more than I usually have, so I had to do 2 screens. Okay. Man. All right, all right. Like I said, hey, everybody, I appreciate your support. I appreciate everybody chiming in. Go ahead and enjoy your holidays. Do what they say with the social distance. Wear your mask. Share the knowledge. Enjoy your holidays. Brand new year, right? January 10th, kicking it with the JW Effect is coming back to you live and live in color. And be safe. Remember, be the change. And truth me, no support. Peace, take care, love y'all. See you next year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Everybody be well and be safe.